HQN Books and Harper Audio present Summer on Mirror Lake by Joann Ross, featuring the bonus story Once Upon a Wedding by Joann Ross, performed by Ashley Klanac. Chapter 1. New York. The heart attack hit like a sledgehammer. As Gabriel Mannion carried the casket of his closest friend down the aisle of St. Matthew's Episcopal Cathedral, his heart pounded against his chest, sweat beaded up on his forehead and at the back of his neck, and nausea caused his gut to clench and his head to spin. It took all his steely determination not to pass out, which he would not do. Not with Carter Kensington's grieving wife, number 4, wearing a black dress that probably cost more than Gabe's first car, and a pair of 5-inch stiletto heels, suggesting that she was feeling a great deal steadier on her feet than he was at the moment, following behind with her 3-year-old son. Gabe suspected that the blue coat the boy wore, which brought to mind the iconic photo of John Kennedy Jr. saluting his father's casket, was not a coincidence. And he couldn't forget wives 2 and 3 seated in the pews, each with one of Carter's 4 children. Wife number 1, Carter's college sweetheart, and the mother of his eldest daughter, had chosen to remain in Santa Barbara. The daughter, Gabe remembered, was taking a gap year in Paris. All on Carter's dime, which he'd bitched about to Gabe nonstop while tossing back Manhattans at the Campbell Bar in Grand Central Station, like they'd time-traveled back to the 1950s Mad Men days. Finally, sufficiently fortified, he'd taken the Metro North home to spend a suburban weekend with his former swimsuit model wife and toddler son in their pricey home, nestled into one of the country's wealthiest communities. Despite having come from old money, as he'd always point out sometime before Gabe would put him onto the train, and despite a trust fund that would have allowed a normal guy to live a comfortable life, Carter had been an indefatigable force of nature. He'd worked hard, played hard, and had, like a comet flaring out, died young. In the bed of one of a string of mistresses, a detail that hadn't made it into his New York Times obituary. Although Carter Kensington had readily acknowledged his many flaws, he'd been a boss, mentor, and friend to Gabe. With the ink from his Columbia Business School MBA diploma still wet, Gabe had followed the yellow brick road to Wall Street when, on his first day of interviews, Carter had taken him under his wing. "You've got the Midas touch, son," Carter had told him as he'd handed out a bonus in the high 6 figures at the end of Gabe's first year, which was more zeros than Gabe had ever seen written out on a check. Despite his small-town Pacific Northwest roots, he'd proven a natural at trading and reveled in the take-no-prisoners roller coaster 24/7 lifestyle. Though he had to wonder, what good had the $1.8 billion Carter had taken home last year from Harborstone Advisors Group done for him in the end? Dealing with more pressing issues at the moment, Gabe avoided that question, as he'd been doing for months. "You can do this," he instructed himself. "You will not drop a $20,000 casket." Although his vision was blurred by vertigo and the sweat dripping into his eyes, his mind created a slow-motion video of the casket bouncing on the stone floor, breaking open, allowing Carter, dressed in his favorite James Bond Brioni suit and handmade Brunello Cucinelli shoes, to fall out and roll down the aisle of the Gothic stone church, while the choir belted out, "Nearer, my God, to thee." The church had 8 steps leading down to the sidewalk. Although they were wide and not all that steep, standing at the top of them was like looking down into the Grand Canyon. Unfortunately, he and Douglas Fairfield, the managing company's 60-year-old managing partner, were the first to tackle them. "You can do this." As little black dots swam in front of his eyes like a cloud of gnats, Gabe grasped the brass side rail even tighter and lifted his end to help keep the casket level and prevent the body sliding downward and upsetting the balance even more. The 6 pallbearers managed to get Carter onto the sidewalk and into the
Sample complete. Ready to continue?